Welcome back. Crunch time is back. Finally, we didn't do week one. We had some technical issues, some personal issues, but we're back. Welcome to Crunch time.
We're back.
Yeah, we're getting some love here, and yeah, that music is pretty fire, honestly. And shout out to Matt. As you can see, I'm joined by Matt Ward today. It's gonna be me, Santiago Casanova, Matt Ward. We're gonna be answering all your start sit questions, breaking news, players that are out, game time decisions, everything. We have it for you at 7:30 in the morning for Matt, as you can see.
Yeah, I'm on
And
the West Coast. It's early. I've been up grinding though since like 5 a.m. So we're good, man.
awesome,
Yeah, that's just how it
dude.
goes. It's just chef
Yeah,
life. It's
yeah,
no business being up early for me these days, man.
fancy life as well. But anyway,
Facts.
let's get this started with some breaking news. Do you have anything for me?
I mean, right off the top, just not long ago, the Saints said that Alvin Kamara essentially will be on an extremely limited snap count. He's basically not playing. Like if they don't need to, they said they'd be comfortable not playing him at all. So.
Right, right. Yeah, the report yesterday he was not expected to play at all. So the fact that they changed it to maybe a little bit, it's not
He is
affecting.
suiting up. Yeah,
Yes, yes, but you're not starting him, are you?
absolutely not. I think we kind of knew that coming
Right,
into this with how the
of course.
practices were going and the decline, I guess, of his upward trajectory since the injury in the game in week one.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, it's definitely not like it's positive for future outlook, I suppose. But as of this game, especially against the
Right.
Buccaneers, like I think you're good.
Yeah, I get that. Like it's not like it's light enough that you are not gonna lose him for some time because he's a little like playing a little bit this week. But just don't start him. Don't do that this week. It's not worth. Like you might see the reports. Oh, he's suiting up. Don't.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
Another big news is Michael Pittman out and what's his name also
Alec
out.
Pierce.
Alec
Yeah.
Pierce.
You just set me up for the
So
lob there.
we just have Ashton Dillon and the man Paris Campbell. Are you starting any of
Yeah.
these guys?
Um, I mean, I think you're going to see Ashton Doolin come in and play the Michael Pittman role, but not have 13 targets because he's not that type of player and he can't earn a 33% target share in any offense. So he's kind of the like boom or bust play, I guess, of
Right,
those options this week. He'll either score the least or the most out of all three. There's not going to be an in between with Ashton Doolin. I think Paris Campbell is more of a volume play there, and you're going to see if the Colts can work into the red zone, which you would expect them to be able to do in this matchup, then I think it's going to be a lot of tight end work. Granson, Mo Alley Cox, and then Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines getting most of the pass work.
right, right. J.K. Dobbins also was he limited or out completely?
He was limited in practice all week, and the Ravens. I think the sleeper notification came up about an hour ago that the Ravens are going
Yeah,
to wait one more week and keep him on the bench.
there you go. So if you drafted Dobbins late and wanted to start him, not anymore. Not happening. I'm still like I'm having a hard time because I didn't draft him because of this reason. Like the injury was still a lingering problem,
Right.
and
And I mean,
who
I'm a
knows?
big J.K. Dobbins guy, and it's definitely the Ravens are smart to with this softer schedule to start their season. They're very smart to obviously slow play him and stuff. But I think for his season long trajectory that he's been limited in practice and had some full practices is definitely encouraging. Like he will be back and be an effective fantasy asset. So if you drafted him, you're still holding. It's not a situation where because he's progressing but not playing, you should drop him.
Right, right. Yeah, don't drop him. That's also important.
Yeah, because
Any?
just because he's
Sorry,
sitting
go
out,
ahead.
it's not like he took a step back in his healing process. They're just
Of
being
course,
very cautious.
cautious. Of course. So some other news of players that are out. We're gonna give you all the news. They might not be the most relevant, but the Wandale Robinson is also out for the Giants. If you
Rondale
were
Moore,
thinking about starting anything, Rondell Moore, Alec Pierce, as we mentioned. Some questionable guys that we're gonna have to monitor and bring you the news as they drop, but some confirmed out is Zach Wilson. Then Chris Hubbard, which is not a fantasy player, but it's interesting because he is an interesting like he is the tackle for the Browns, so that running game or that pass protection is going to be hindered because of him being out. Chris Godwin is also out, and
On
anyone else
that,
I'm
on the
missing?
offensive line note, Donovan
Yeah,
Smith, the left tackle for the Buccaneers, will not play against the Saints, and the Saints have
mm,
traditionally been able to put a lot of pressure on Brady in the first place, and you know, I mean, they've dominated him in all four matchups in the regular season. So that's going to be interesting. I think that might affect a Fournette that's also coming off an injury.
right, right. For the late slate of games, Damian Williams is out for the Falcons, so I don't think he was going to be huge, but that does mean a little bit more production for Cordero Patterson, I do think.
Agree.
Van Jefferson for the Rams is also out since last week. I was hoping to play him, but I guess we're going to have to wait another week. For the Cowboys, we know Dak Prescott is not playing and Michael Gallup is also not playing. Those are not news, but just to give you some context, like you mentioned, Rondell Moore, Andy Isabella is also out for the Cardinals. Anyone else I'm missing here?
Mark Ingram's
KJ Hamler.
questionable. Oh,
Mark
KJ
Ingram.
Hamler's out.
Interesting.
Mark Ingram
Yeah,
is
KJ Hamler's out.
questionable with an ankle, but he's expected to play and receive obviously the bulk of the running back work,
Right.
splitting carries and pass work with Tony Jones, I would assume.
Yeah.
And that's about it. But again, that just takes me further away from wanting to start Mark Ingram, which I, even without Kamara,
Of
I
course.
probably have no interest in starting him unless it's a desperation play. But with him being injured and questionable, limited in practice, I'm just, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So if that's done, any other news you want to drop? Any more knowledge you want to drop?
No, I mean, I'm just going through my injury notes. You kind of covered them all. You even got the left tackles that I wanted to talk about. So,
There you go. So we can get to some questions then. Let's get some start set questions in and start answering because this is what this is for, honestly. First, let's talk about Alejandro. Glad to be back. Honestly, it is time for a new season.
yeah,
Let's get it.
it's very exciting, man. I'm ecstatic to finally get back in the saddle and get back into real football and not just all of these assumptions and it's a beautiful thing
Yeah,
to have fantasy
it
football
is.
back.
It is. I'm excited. All right, so let's get to the questions. We have Charles Kearney first. He has two RB2 questions. So full PPR. We love it when you give us details. So if you're thinking about asking a question, give us the details of the league so we can give you a better answer. Harris or Stevenson for New England, and Harris or AJ Dillon. Let's get to the first one first. So go ahead.
Yeah, for the first one, I actually, I mean, Harris had a much higher snap share in the first game, and I think we were all expecting a more of a committee, and then we saw Ty Montgomery getting the pass work. So with Montgomery out, I that pass work you want should go to Stevenson, which would increase him in my rankings for me. I'm slightly leaning him there for the pass catching work, because it is full PPR. I think they probably have similar touchdown upside because you never know who's scoring touchdowns in New England's rushing offense. Um, it's yeah, and I mean the other side is much easier for me. It's definitely AJ Dillon, but
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I'm definitely leaning Stevenson here, and I'm starting
Interesting.
Stevenson in a few leagues myself, which I know is probably a little contrarian, considering the week one split touch that we saw. Or yeah, but that's my. I do think that there's going to be a little bit more pass catching work there. Um, so it's going to be Stevenson over Harris.
Interesting. I like that. I'm not sure I'm gonna be so determined as you are in the first decision. The second one for sure, I'm going AJ Dillon. The fact that it's full PPR does make me lean Stevenson for the first one as well. If it was half or standard, I'm going Harris. But yeah, I'm gonna have to probably side with the expert here, and go with Stevenson in the first. I'll defer to Matt on that one, and then definitely go AJ Dillon in the second. All right. So thank you, Charles. Let's go to Alejandro. He says half PPR sit one. Lamb, Marquise Brown, Adam Thielen, or Lassard. I mean, is it as clear to you as it is to me? I can't hear you though. There you
Did
go.
I pull a cast?
I think you did.
Did I mute myself or did you mute me?
I'm not sure honestly. So
Well, are we back? It's
yeah,
pretty obvious. It's Alan Lazard. You're
yeah,
sitting Alan Lazard in that scenario.
of course.
And for QB, I'm still I mean apparently it's piss and rain in San Francisco right now. So Trey Lance is playing in yet
Yeah,
another
fun for
monsoon
him.
esque, but without the wind. So yeah, the weather's bad there. But I'm still going to lean Trey Lance. Like I'm not ready to give up. I think the rushing upside, the weapons that he has, if the offense can actually get clicking in, weather that isn't tornado like, then Trey Lance should have a big game against the Seahawks.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think I'm going Trey Lance. The Seahawks are not very good. They look better than they are because they played Russell Wilson and they know their stuff. So I'm thinking if they play a different QB in a different situation, they're not going to look as good as they did last game.
Did you see
So
that
yeah,
Russell Wilson was using the same hand signals that he
yeah.
used to
I mean,
use in Seattle, and they were just like, "Oh, so yeah." And
yeah,
then
that's
he still did have 340 passing yards, if we're being fair about it.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. They just didn't connect on the touchdowns. So
And yeah, goal line fumbles
Trey
and
Lance is no Russell
Alberto.
Wilson, I will say,
No,
but but
but
I do prefer him to Daniel Jones.
I
Right.
as well,
So
me as well, especially with the way that Saquon's been looking, and looked in week one against a pretty respectable Tennessee defense. I think they're going to be able to lean on Barkley, and that kind of takes away Danny Dimes' only usability, which is the fact that he's very athletic and can actually run.
right, right. Yeah, definitely Trey. Joe says, "What's up? What's up, Joe?
What's up, brother?
Glad to see you back here." Now we have a question from Mitchell. He says, "Full PPR, start one Hollywood or T Higgins." I'm going Hollywood here, honestly.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Uh,
I was pretty
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm very bullish on T Higgins in general, but I was feeling a little apprehensive coming into this week with him being limited in every single
Right,
practice and then
right,
the personal, devastating loss of his father and dealing with a concussion and just clearing concussion protocol in time for the game and not even really being able to
of
practice.
course.
So like I was kind of under the assumption that they were going to run Tyler Boyd as the wide receiver 2 just through the playbook, because they didn't have T to game plan with. Um, and but now he's like the favorite to lead the week in rush or receiving yards on DraftKings and on a bunch of, because people were just hammering the overcorrective line. And
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah,
looked not great in week one. I think this is a lot more complicated than it looks on paper.
it
And
is.
I do slightly lean Hollywood because the Raiders and Cardinals actually have the highest over under slate of the weekend. So
Nice, nice.
yeah, so speaking of the Vegas lines is you usually get a pretty good idea of fantasy point projections when you look at what teams are supposed to score the most points on over unders. Like if they're expecting 5 touchdowns between 2 teams, well, like those touchdowns have to usually go to high producing fantasy stars. So those are the games that you want to target when you come to like start sit questions. If you're like just splitting
Right.
hairs, and because Hollywood has the higher over under here and the more projected points, I'm gonna lean Hollywood.
Yeah, not only that, but like all the stuff you mentioned for T, I think the favorite line is what you said is an overcorrection. The line was very low
Right.
because of all the
Exactly.
instability and like unexpected stuff. So people were hammering the over and said like, "Oh, right, you want to hammer this? I'm gonna give you a crazy line." I don't think that's like really indicative of
Exactly.
what they think is gonna happen because people don't realize for most betting lines are not supposed to be predictive. That's not the point of betting lines. The point of betting lines is finding a spot that's going to split people down the middle so you get around 50% of bets on both sides. So if they had a ton of over bets, they need a ton of under bets to counteract that. So they're going to grow a crazy line for people react and start betting the under. They're not trying to be predictive of not Hollywood, sorry, T. Higgins' line right now. They're trying to
Right.
get under bets, and I mean they're getting them because they went for a favorite line of most receiving yards. That's how betting lines work, and taking them as predictive is useful because they do a lot of research and know what they're talking about, but they're not trying to be predictive. Just that's a little
Exactly.
caveat that people need to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And I mean,
in
for
conclusion,
for my and
Hollywood.
just for my argument of like over unders is if you are seeing a game that has a 54.5 point over under and are wondering whether you should start an RB2 in a game that has a 38.5 point over under,
Oh,
I
right,
tend to
right.
err on the side of the more projected points.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially for that like total points in a game, that's very useful. And I saw this phrase that was paraphrasing someone else, but by a friend, Dave, and he said Vegas is the worst predictor for NFL games, except for all the other ones, which are worse. So they're not good predictors, but no one's better. So
Right, right.
you can still use them as predictors. So yeah, so Mitchell, I think we agree on Hollywood, and you said he didn't have a great week one, and that's fair. But I think not overreacting or not like even barely reacting to week one is very wise because we've missed out. I personally missed out on a lot of studs and gems because of I reacted to week one, even the first 2 weeks. Like Justin Jefferson, his rookie season, he was not good the first 2 weeks, and then he blew up, right? So I still have faith in Hollywood, and I'm going Hollywood for this one. All right, Boyd says, I dropped Najee Harris. Am I doing this wrong? Not necessarily, bro, honestly. But we'll see. Alejandro, he says, last one. Full PPR, Curtis Samuel or Jarvis Landry. Thanks and best of luck. Thank you. Best of luck to you, too. This one's interesting, actually.
This one's
Two
very
week
interesting.
one
Because
overperformers.
speaking of week one, exactly, week one overreactions,
Yeah,
or you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because both of those guys absolutely looked phenomenal. Um,
yeah.
but as a Saints fan, I will throw the caveat out that Jarvis Landry looked that way because Michael Thomas only had a 62% snap share, something that they knew they were
Ooh,
going to limit in week one.
ooh.
And MT still had 10 targets and 2 touchdowns on 30% less snaps than Jarvis Landry did. So if those snap shares switch, you're not going to see the same 13 targets for Jarvis Landry. They will start leaning towards Michael Thomas because he just ran fewer routes in general. So I'm still going to say that I'm actually leaning Jarvis in a matchup where the Saints will probably have to play from behind. I've mentioned that they've dominated Brady in the past, but you can only hold back that rushing tsunami of the greatest of all time for so long. And the Saints defense is a lot different this year. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They lost some key pieces. Marcus Williams. They added Tyrann Mathieu, yes, but he's not a cover safety. He plays in the box. And so now Lattimore is left again in the position to kind of roam on his own. And it's a lot tougher when he doesn't have that nickel help out there. So I expect the Saints to be playing from behind, which should open up a lot more or a lot of passing opportunities for Jarvis Landry. Whereas that Washington game, I think, could be split right down the middle with just a lot of rushing
Right,
work on both sides of the ball.
right. I think yeah, they did have a similar amount of points week one, but I'm gonna lean towards the guy that didn't need a touchdown to score all those points, right?
Right.
So that was Curtis,
And
and
that was
if
in a clear high volume role.
right, right, and like even there's a Jahan Dodson question, right? What if he played great? What if he gets a bigger
Played
role
great.
and starts pushing him out? We don't know that. It's too early to tell. It's only week two as well, so maybe not so early. But I'm still leaning Jarvis slightly, but not so slightly as well. So yeah, I'm going Jarvis. Kevin Coleman says my guys are up early. Yes, we are,
Yeah,
especially
he's a
him.
West Coaster as well.
I'm in Central, so not too bad for me.
Yeah.
Ooh, Big Will says, "What a morning with the boys.
Oh,
Glad
it's
to see you
Will.
doing this again. Good morning, Big Will. What's up? Shout out to Cass for barely beating me last week. Yeah, that was a close one in the patron league. I'll be seeing you again. All right, we'll see about that. Kevin Coleman, real question: are you pivoting away from the pass catchers in San Francisco due to weather? Matt, you're the expert. You check the forecast. Let me know.
I mean, it was certainly a concern in week one. I'm pivoting away from Brandon Ayuk. I don't think you need to worry about Debo so much because of his wide back role. You're going to see him get a bunch of carries, especially with the backfield looking the way that it is in San Francisco right now. On the flip
Mm.
side of things, like, are you really all that interested in Seahawks pass catchers in the first place, like, regardless of the weather? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was probably the best game of Geno Smith's career and the best game that you're going to see him play this season. And Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf were players that you probably shouldn't have had in your lineup.
Right. Right. Yeah, and
So, and I do
there's
think that
just
San Francisco's defense is good enough in any weather to be able to shut those pass catchers down. And yeah, I'm like for those that know on the brand, man, like Brandon Ayuk's my guy, and I want him
right.
to succeed probably more than any other wide receiver in the NFL. If I'm being completely honest, like that's the guy that I put the most chips in on, and that I felt the most confident about, and it's just kind of not come to fruition. So that it, but in this particular game specifically, with Lance still developing and the weather being the way that it is, and the Seahawks being fired up after a big Denver win, it's tough to want to start Brandon Ayuk in any lineups. But there's no way that you're benching Debo Samuel. I would be comfortable benching Lockett and Metcalf in this matchup.
Yeah, yeah, I think I agree. Uh, Not much else to say. Like, yes, fade, but also no fade, if that makes sense, Kevin. So hopefully we were helpful in this situation. I have a question for you, actually. Like by
For
me,
me,
yeah.
yeah, all right.
On the topic of Brandon Ayuk, since you're the Ayuk guy, would you start Ayuk or someone like Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson? Like, how far are you dropping him? Is what I'm saying.
Like that's a pretty good line to draw because I mean guys like Curtis Samuel, guys like Jarvis Landry, that just tier above the Corey Davises, and the Robbie Andersons, because those were kind of Robbie had a huge week one. That's a bit of an
Right.
overreaction. I think people are in on Robbie Anderson again, which I'm certainly not. But yeah, that's essentially the line that I would draw. I would probably start Corey Davis over him. I would probably start Robbie Anderson over him. I would definitely start the Curtis Samuels and Jarvis Landry's over him this week as well. His sleeper projections, I think, in full PPR are just over 10, depending if you have premiums for first downs or whatever.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Special leagues.
yeah, exactly. So with the weather being the way that it is, with Brandon Ayuk being the kind of polarizing prospect that he is, in the sense that he had such a phenomenal rookie season, and then such a phenomenal back half of year two when Shanahan took him out of the doghouse. It's you just never know what game plan you're getting for that kid, and he's certainly a product of the system. So yeah, I think you can draw the line essentially at Corey Davis. Anyone below that in tiers, like looking at Fantasy Pros ECR, I wouldn't start him over guys like KJ Osborne, guys
So
like
you're starting KJ Osborne over Ayuk, is what you're saying?
no, I
Okay,
wouldn't
okay, okay.
start KJ Osborne. Like
Okay, yeah, that makes more
that's
sense.
like the tier below these.
Right.
I'm just going like kind of through the rankings in that tier below. Like I would still start Ayuk over those guys. Sorry, that was a
Okay.
phonetic slip.
Makes sense.
But
Great
but
answer.
it's tough, man, and it's tough to sit on that and knowing that it's not the greatest matchup either. Because I mean, obviously, I have him drafted in a lot of places. I was very very high on the kid and always have been, and was
Right.
comfortable with his price. So I was comfortable with hitting the draft button on a lot of Brandon Ayuk this season. So this matchup in managed leagues is if I have a pivot, I'm making one.
All right. Makes sense. Great answer. Let's move on to the next one. We have ooh, Bateman over Devonta Smith this week. I'm saying yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
not as worried about Bateman getting outscored by Devin Duvernay as other people are.
no.
Like it's so yeah,
Again, week
absolutely.
one reactions and overreactions. Also, another
Eh,
reaction and overreaction would be the Devonta Smith zero, right?
right.
Uh,
Yes.
but
I
I'm
think
still
those reactions should meet in the middle, and it should
right.
still be Rashad
This is
Bateman
why
as
it's still
the
a question, right?
right. Yeah, absolutely. And I have Bateman in not he's not going to crack the top 15 this week, but I have him just slightly ahead of Devontae. I actually have Devontae having kind of a bounce back against the Vikings because I see a bit of a semi shootout going down in that game. Um, But I like Bateman. Miami's a tough matchup, but I do like Bateman this week, and I think people are ignoring his peripherals when they were looking at those Devin Duvernay touchdowns. Bateman had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm not worried about him, and I'm not even worried about Devonta Smith, to be honest, that
Me
much.
either.
We'll see this week. If he puts up another zero, then I'm panicking, but I don't think he will. So let's just hang on in there and start Bateman this week. Like no scoring format, but does the scoring format change anything for you here?
Not really with wide receivers so much, right? If it was a wide receiver versus a running back, then yeah, the scoring format would obviously matter a little
Right.
bit more. But when you're matching up two wide receivers, the scoring format doesn't
Well,
really.
like if you have a like a field
Well,
stretcher
yeah,
versus
okay, like a
deep threat, maybe
Jalen
yeah,
Waddle
yeah.
versus.
I'm
Yeah, I
just
get that.
being
That's true.
being
That's true.
facetious right now.
Well, I mean, that is kind of those two guys. Like Devontae, I think is going to kind of turn into a boomer bust Tyler Lockett esque career arc. And
Mm,
you could see Bateman
interesting.
actually controlling a consistent 25% target share on, as the wide receiver one on the Ravens.
Right, right. Yeah. So Bateman, there you go, Christopher. Thank you for your question. Edgardo, hey, what's up, man? Then we have Clay. What's up,
What's
fellas?
up,
How
Clay?
you doing? Uh, Anonymous Brotto Fantasy says Matt is dropping bars early, and I agree.
I promise I'm not. That's not me. I'm not behind that account.
We'll listen. Yeah, Nick. For those who don't know, Nick and Andy Isabella are best buds from college, so he's sad his buddy is out. But let's keep going with the questions. Big Will gonna be a Taysom Hill game for the Saints running game. That's an interesting angle we
Maybe.
didn't discuss, and especially if you're like in a tight end premium league, he is a tight end on most websites, right? So
No, I think he's a. I mean, as far as I know, he's a tight end everywhere because the
exclusively, right?
Saints.
Yeah,
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 yeah. The Saints even like removed his quarterback eligibility. He didn't play a single QB snap in all the preseason outside of his
right,
gadget roles, right? Like where they.
right.
It's basically when Taysom is
He
taking
ran
a
out of the
snap at
Wildcat, right?
quarterback,
Last
it's a
season,
wildcat.
not during this
Exactly.
week.
Like
Yeah,
that's what I'm. Yeah, it's a
it's,
wildcat.
he's
It's
not a
not
QB
really
anymore,
like.
right? Right.
Yeah,
It's a Wildcat. But yeah, that is a good point. We'll be seeing
and I
him.
mean, but I don't
I
think
am
like
starting
what
him
you're
in one
gonna
league,
see
by the
is
way.
Taysom Hill line up as a halfback and take handoffs.
Right,
Like I
right.
think there are
Yeah,
people that are kind of projecting that with
he's not.
marking or with Mark Ingram, in the ankle, and then obviously Kamara not really playing, probably not playing at all. Like I think you might see a David Johnson, Chase Edmonds, Matthew Berry freaking out scenario from 2 years ago where he suits up
Yeah.
and he plays, but he doesn't take a single snap.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we're saying just don't start Kamara.
And I mean, Taysom's going to be when he's there in that Wildcat, it's QB power right. It's QB power right. Like it's
Yeah,
hilarious that the NFL just can't stop him from doing that. So I don't think you're going to see 10 carries from Taysom, but that guy can take every touch for 18 yards, and because of the game that they're playing in, Jameis is also hurt. That was
yeah.
one that
That's
we
true.
missed
That's
out on.
true.
Jameis is also hurt.
But playing,
Um,
as
but
far
yeah,
as we know,
fully
right?
for
Yeah,
sure. Yes, 100%. He's good to go. But the game script that we're going to see, like I said, might be a play from behind game. So they might get tricky, and you might see a lot of different gadget looks with Taysom Hill, and other kind of special team esque players like Deontay
right.
Hardy, where they want to limit Jameis rather, sorry, and they want to expand their running game, because they can't just pound it up the middle and sweep stretch to the outside with Kamara.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. It's gonna be an interesting game, honestly. I do have Deontay Hardy in another league that also has return yards, so might be
Oh, I'd
interesting
be
to start him
starting
this
him
week.
in
Yeah.
a
So
return yard
return
league
yards
for sure.
and the weird game, positive game script. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I also snatched DeAndre Carter on that for the return
Nice.
yards where he's just been lighting it up without
Right,
return
on
yards,
both
right?
sides.
So
Dude,
one of the
I was
best
in a
picks ever.
return yards. The first return yard league I was ever in, somebody took Tyler Lockett, like the second or third pick, and I was just like, awesome. Like I'm just gonna dominate this league. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
obviously that didn't work
Yeah.
out.
I was in the what is it, drafting with Giants league, which gives you 2 points. But like 2 points per 10 return yards, so double what the rushing
Oh,
yards get you
right.
on like receiving
That is
yards.
huge.
It was insane. Like DeAndre Carter was wide receiver 2 last season and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And yeah, McCole Harmon went in the second round, stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's move on.
Anybody that actually returns a kick and may see offensive is just
It's
a
insane.
gold mine.
It's insane. Yeah. We have Joe Arias coming back with D Swift in my flex. Are you comfortable with him? Yeah,
If the Lions are,
definitely.
I am.
Yeah,
That's my only,
right,
yeah.
right. We have a very similar question to one we just answered. So we should I fade Devonta Smith for Bateman today? And we kind of lean for Bateman. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think if there are stronger what ifs on your bench, you might be able to start over Bateman, but it's Bateman over Smith today. Even though, like I said, I kind of do predict a semi shootout with the Vikings and the Eagles. Excuse me. But Rashad Bateman is really somebody that I truly believe is going to continue to take over the wide receiver one role for that team, and I like the matchup. Miami has a
right,
sneaky
right.
good offense this season, man. They can put up points on almost anybody, I think. They're
Yeah,
fast and they run a lot of really interesting run blocking schemes because Mike McDaniel is a genius. So they're just I think they're going to be a tough team to slow down, especially after the catch. Like that's what McDaniel was so good at orchestrating in San Francisco was yards after the catch blocking. And yeah, I think I think the Ravens are going to have their hands full with that offense, and therefore need to put up points on that defense.
yeah, yeah. Makes sense. I agree. There you go.
And
You have your
Bateman
answer
did
for
catch a
today.
touchdown too. Like people are kind of ignoring that. Like
Yeah,
Devin Duvernay
yeah.
was just
They're panicking too much. That's
it was
that's
kind of just
the overreaction.
like Bateman had the sauce shadow. Oh, that sounds man, I love that kid. Yeah, Bateman had the Sauce Gardner shadow, the sauce shadow. So that was kind of where most of the Jets defense was focused anyway, and Duvernay just beat everybody that didn't have speed to the end zone. So
Right, right.
Miami's
He did.
Miami's got good safety help, but certainly exploitable corners.
Yeah, I agree. We have an interesting one here. Deontay Johnson or Brandon Cooks half PPR. They seem near identical, and I have Sutton, who I'm starting over both. I honestly lean Deontay this week because like they're also playing the Patriots, and they were not good. So I like Deontay over Brandon Cooks. I also think their QB situation, like his QB situation, is a little bit better. I prefer Mitch to Mills, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, well, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think the process that they have here is right. If you're starting Sutton over both of them, I'm not mad at that. He had an identical target share to Judy. Judy just happened to catch the touchdown, and Sutton had more receptions. Um, but Deontay is kind of the guy that I would almost lean over all three of those options. I'm a big proponent of Deontay Johnson, and
Right.
he's like I think the myth of Big Ben upholding his target share was
Yeah, insane.
debunked in week one. I mean, it should have been
32%.
debunked when he put up those numbers with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges as well, but we just ignored those games. Yeah, so Deontay is an absolute wide receiver one on any given week.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like you
And
said,
I
I
don't
think
know
the
that you can
question
say
should
that
be
about
Sutton or
Brandon Cooks and
Cooks.
Cortland Sutton. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
The question
It
should
should
be
be
Sutton or
Sutton or
Cooks
Cooks, and
with
Deontay should
Johnson
be
locked in.
starting.
Right.
Right.
I agree. And
And then
I'm
I think I'm
leaning
leaning
Johnson and
Sutton over
Sutton.
Cooks.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Exactly.
So we agree. That's what I would do. Boyd says Matt's always dropping bars. Yeah, yeah, he is. Sam, is it crazy to bench Kamara for Henderson this week? No, not crazy at all.
No, you
Start
probably should.
Henderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely start Henderson. Kamara is yo. If Kamara plays the whole game and scores 3 touchdowns or some shit like that, I'm gonna be very very upset. But I don't know. Said
I
Kamara.
mean, I don't think well, it's not the Sean or yeah. Whew, it's not the Sean Payton regime, and I don't know if the Saints have the Sean McVay in them, where they're just going to straight up lie, where they will just know the truth and straight up lie. So, I mean, if they wanted to game plan with Kamara, he would have at least practiced. So I think them saying like we might not play him at all if we don't have to, in a game
Right.
that I don't know if they're projecting to win anyway. Like as a team, like people don't realize really like as a team, the Saints know what their trajectory is. They know what games they need to win on that schedule, and I'm not sure they're chalking up the Bucks as one of those games. I'm not saying they're
Right.
just going to lay down, and that's not the scenario. You're just looking at it like they're not going to open up their playoff playbook just to beat the Bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. So
which would
yeah, bench
involve
Kamara.
utilizing a hurt Kamara into the ground and then not have him ever, and it's just week 2. So that's kind of my point is I don't think that this is actually one of those scenarios where they're being sneaky about it. I think Kamara might play 10 snaps, if that.
I agree. I agree. We have another one from Edgardo. He says, for flex, just one of these guys: Waddle, Brandon Cooks, AJ Dillon, Drake London, or Curtis Samuel. That is an interesting selection of guys, and it's gonna be
Dude,
an
that
interesting
must be
answer.
okay. For one, that's a stacked
Yeah,
depth of flexes.
insane.
If those are guys that you're putting in your flex, bravo on a pretty decent roster, man. Okay, so I think I can break this apart a bit.
Okay, give me your thought process on this.
It's almost ordered correctly, but I'm gonna definitely start Drake
Oh,
London over Curtis Samuel.
oh, okay. Oh, like over, but yeah, we're picking one guy. Focus on the top.
Yeah. So, and then AJ Dillon over Drake London, that makes sense. AJ Dillon over Brandon Cooks. So it's coming
Yeah.
down to Waddle or Dillon for me. There we go. There's my process of elimination.
Okay. Yeah.
Waddle or Dillon. Yeah,
I have
Jalen
my answer by the
definitely.
way, so go ahead.
Okay, I had to get through my. Yeah, I think you'd be most comfortable and probably have the highest ceiling combination if you started with Waddle and Dillon. Dillon would give you a little bit of a safer floor there. The upside play is Waddle against the Ravens. That's going to be a tough defensive matchup. I think Dillon is a little more touchdown dependent. I do think that Waddle will have a bigger opportunity than he did in week 1. Tyreek Hill with his 40% target share out here. Yeah, I'm going to say Jalen Waddle's my starter. I'm going to say flex Jalen Waddle.
I was going to say
even though Drake
Dillon,
London's my sleeper of the
honestly.
week. You're going to say flex Dillon?
Yeah, I was going to say flex Dillon.
Yeah. I'm always kind
I
of a
think
wide receiver over running back guy. Yeah.
Did he say that he did not give us a scoring format? Which
See, because if it was PPR, then it would
Yeah.
definitely be leaning Waddle for me. I usually just my brain kind of autos to half to try to just meet my discussion points in the middle.
Yeah. I think I do that too, and it's tight. But I'm going Dillon. You're going Waddle.
Yeah, I think so. That might be our
Edgardo, if
first
you have,
first disagreement
might
of the
be.
show.
If you have some more detailed scoring format or who your other wide receivers and running backs are, we can maybe help you a little bit more. Because otherwise we're kind of split a little bit.
I do think Drake London's a real sneaky play against the Rams, though. Especially when in DFS, where he's going to be pretty lowly rostered because people are assuming a Ramsey shadow will be able to, do something.
Right. So yeah, let's wait for more details on that one, hopefully, and move on with Trey. He has Curtis Samuel or MT in my flex full PPR. MT, no doubt.
MT.
Right? All right.
Man, I mean, I can't believe people faded that guy into the 9th round to have the same ADP as Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, no, insane. So yeah, that was an easy
it's
one.
It's MT. Yeah.
Trey's also dropping knowledge in the chat, tagging Sam about the Kamara question. So thank you for that. Let's keep moving. What's your confidence in Lazard this week? I mean, that's pretty vague, but
it's Tim. It's not as vague. It's Tim having a high rostership percentage and Alan Lazard and knowing that he's going to be probably limited. I'm not. I would like to see Lazard in his alpha role that everybody is assuming he's going to get before I feel super confident putting him there in my fantasy lineup as a wide receiver too. I think you can flex Lazard this week. Although he has been limited, he is coming back from an injury, and there's it depends on how deep your rosters are, how shallow your bench is. Because there's got to be better options. There just has to be better options in his first week back from an injury, in his first week as the presumed alpha, in his first week drawing number 1 coverage, in his first week, so that's just a tough play. And it's not like the Packers don't have the greatest matchup either. So that's a tough play.
Yeah, I agree. Tough play is a good description. So there you go, Tim. Hopefully,
I think there's just a little bit more ceiling elsewhere, and I know what his rosters look like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But, all right, and then moving on to the next question, we have another one from Will. He says, need a wide receiver 3 and 2 flex to start in half PPR format. Higgins, which we talked about a little bit. Landry, Elijah Moore, Zay Jones, Phillips, and Taysom Hill. The starting wide receivers are now is Cup and Thielen. So wide receiver 3, Higgins, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And
I still
then
like Tyler
for the
Boyd
two flex,
as a high upside play this week. But
yeah.
you're starting Higgins. You're starting Higgins
Of course.
everywhere.
Yeah. And then for the flex, I'm thinking Landry and Moore, right? Just like avoid.
And then we have two flexes. Yep. Yeah, Landry and Moore.
So the first 3 you listed, I think I would go with those guys as my 3 picks.
Landry, Moore. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Although I've always kind of liked Kyle Phillips.
Yeah, but come on, bro.
No, sorry. Yeah, we're not starting him. But I like that kid.
Yeah, I
man.
agree. Okay.
I got a slot obsession. I got an obsession with slot boys.
Yeah, they are appealing for fantasy. Honestly, I do. I get that. Boyd says I don't want to go look at my 23 lineups yet. Yeah, it's a full-time job, honestly. Full PPR, Schultz or Taysom Hill.
That's kind of interesting.
That's too.
I'm gonna go Dalton
plays.
Schultz as the only player in that Dallas offense that looked like he could function in week 1. And if it's like, okay, well, I guess full PPR is just across the board, so there's no tight end premium there. But if there was tight end premium, that would be premium for receptions, which I would obviously heavily lean towards Schultz.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're getting Taysom work, it's going to be probably rushing work, right?
Right.
So
and maybe a slant honestly, route.
Yeah, even just full PPR. That's what you want, like receptions, and that's what Schultz is getting, not what Taysom is getting. Right. So
yeah, it's got to be Dalton, man.
Dalton
Dalton actually has the highest projected PPR point total of any member of the Dallas offense leading in this week, more than his quarterback, which I don't know how it's possible, but
there you go. Look at that. Clay Jones says full PPR bonuses for 40 plus and 50 plus TDs. Ayuk or Thielen. We talked about Ayuk a little bit already, and I think
it's got to be Adam Thielen for me here.
So
I also think Thielen's
worthy.
A smash against the Eagles, who just allowed Amon-Ra to go ham on the mud of the slot. So
right,
I really like Adam Thielen this week.
Boy.
Yeah.
So Trey, in regards to handcuff RBs, who's more droppable, Ingram or Rachaad White? I'm gonna let you answer this one.
As a Saints fan and a hardcore Rachaad proprietor, yeah, that's not easy, man. For me, it's honestly Mark Ingram. I think, and here's the thing, because we're talking about handcuffs, right? So you're talking about who's more valuable when the starter goes down, and the answer is Rachaad White. If Leonard Fournette were to get hurt, Rachaad White has league-winning upside, like absolute PPR nightmare league-winning upside. Mark Ingram does not have that, even with Kamara out of the lineup.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And as it stands right now, yes, you can flex Mark Ingram, and you can't do that with Rachaad right now. But if you're talking about handcuffs that you want to hold for the rest of the season, the answer is Rachaad White over Ingram 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, I agree 100% because you know what you're getting with Ingram. We've seen him for years, and you don't know what you're getting with Rachaad White, and the potential is through the roof. So, yeah, there you go, Trey. Thank you for your question. That's a good question. Tom Brady Stan #GOAT coming back for another season of Crunch Time Live. Welcome back. What's up, dudes? Flex question. Jeff Wilson, Jahan Dotson, of course, the
Nazareth High School legend. I love it.
Or Christian
this
Kirk.
Guy's my new favorite. he knows Jahan. For flex, I would like to know kind of PPR here, half PPR. Half PPR, I would lean Jeff Wilson, maybe. Full, it's Christian Kirk. And Jahan's going to be the third in the pecking order regardless.
Yeah, I think I agree. He did shine week 1, but not enough for me to consider the decision. I'm going Kirk, just without any more details. I just have a hard time starting Jeff Wilson. I'm not a fan of the situation. Never have been, so
I feel you there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna revert. You've kind of just your little hesitation made me want to hesitate as well. I think it's Christian Kirk regardless. Jeff Wilson might even get fewer rushing attempts than Trey Lance, especially with the weather looking the way that it is.
Right.
And I mean, and Christian Kirk is low key gonna destroy dudes out of the slot. Because I mean, he played a lot of slot snaps in Arizona, but some of his bigger games are played on the outside because of the wide receiver situation and the injuries to Hopkins. So the Jags played him like 93% of his snaps out of the slot in week 1, and he had 14 targets or 11 targets, 10 catches, and over 100 yards. So I think Christian Kirk in a like massive slot role where Trevor Lawrence, his confidence is really shaky right now, and he just needs somebody to catch a pass quickly to be like, okay, look, I got this. Man, I like Christian Kirk season long a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I agree actually, because I've never been a Christian Kirk fan since the Arizona days. Since he was drafted, he was like a draft sweetheart. Never got it, but right now in this situation, he is much better off. I would say. So yeah, Christian Kirk, Tom Brady, Stan #GOAT. Thank you for your question. Boyd asks Michael Carter or Melvin Gordon half PPR, and this is a very interesting question for me. Honestly,
really tough.
Very very tough because the Broncos are playing what, Houston? Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And yeah,
Jets playing the Ravens.
we saw the Houston defense, and it's #not very good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Michael Carter did have an interesting role last week.
Well, he had a clear, handle on the number one, our running back role, essentially. Like whether you look at it as, Breece Hall had 11 targets, but Michael Carter had 9. Flacco, anytime that he's put in a situation where he has to pass a lot, he's going to check down a bunch. So they both have similar ceilings in the receiving department, depending on who's on the field. And I don't think that's necessarily a product of either one of them being superstar receivers. I think it's a product of Joe Flacco not being able to push the ball more than 8 yards down the field at the age of 40. So that being said, the more that, and I know it's only week 2, but the more that the season rolls on and the more that, and because he played fewer snaps, but did see more targets, maybe there's a situation going on where every time Breece Hall is on the field, he's going to get an opportunity. And the more that the season goes on, the more he's going to be on the field ahead of Michael Carter. So that limits Michael Carter's upside naturally. Now, Melvin Gordon.
However,
Melvin Gordon did. I mean, it's still a split. It's still a timeshare. He's still sharing with Javonte Williams, and Javonte looked like the much better player. But Melvin looked really good again, and they're going to preserve Javonte for as long as they can. I think they have him. They have a terrible, terrible cap situation coming up. They need to keep that young running back healthy on his rookie contract. So Melgo is not going anywhere while he's in that lineup and while he's healthy. I think you can project Melvin Gordon to have as many carries as Javonte, if not more, again, like we saw in week 1, and probably a increase in passing work as well, as the snap percentages stay 50-50. So I like Melgo against arguably the worst rushing defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's the most toss-up question of the toss-ups, honestly, because they both have their own knowns that would make them either very good or very mediocre this week. But I think I agree with Melvin against a crappy-ass defense and with the split share he's been, like the splits have been getting, right?
Yeah, so it's very tough. I actually I think Michael Carter is somebody that, until that snap share becomes less even, is somebody that's going to obviously have a role. Like, you can't deny that anymore, as much as we wanted to in the offseason.
Right.
But I like the matchup against Houston. If Denver puts up 14 before half or 21 before half, then I think Melgo is going to be a garbage time hero.
Yeah, I like some goal line work, vulture some TDs. You flip me. Let's go with Melgo. See what happens. We have one from Malchi. Gabe Davis is questionable with ankle injury, and he plays on Monday. Should I start Hit or I guess him or Amari Cooper? This is a tough one, like strategically, because like the answer would be Gabe Davis, but since he plays on Monday night and is questionable, that's a potential zero in your lineup, right? So how are you approaching this?
Yeah, Gabe Davis was a popular start sit all week in the first place, and then obviously the ankle injury crept up, and in the Monday night game complicates things. But Amari's not really someone I'm interested in at all until Deshaun Watson comes back. I don't. I'm worried about him drawing number one coverages. Um, he's not an alpha. Like, what we think of an alpha is somebody that, regardless of quarterback play, regardless of the defensive matchup, can command a 25% target share or more, right? Like, that's what, and Amari Cooper has never once in his life been that guy. So
You're not that
neither is Gabe Davis. We'll stop that there,
right.
but he's not somebody that you should feel very comfortable starting until Deshaun is back. Somebody that can feed his low volume target share with incredibly high value targets. I know it's a risky move here, but the ankle injury crept up kind of late as well, and he is only questionable. I think he does play. I feel a little more confident taking that risk if I have another Monday night pivot, because there are two Monday night games, right? So
Right.
you
Yeah,
could
the
you
Eagles
could
also
look at
play on Monday.
the Eagles Vikings one as well, or even if like a Kyle Phillips is on your bench, or on the waivers rather, maybe try and pick him up for a pivot if Gabe Davis is ruled out. I would feel a lot more confident doing that if you had an available option there on another Monday night player.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But
If you have
just
another
like
Monday
in a
night,
vacuum, it's start Gabe Davis over Amari Cooper
of
for me.
course, it's just the situation right now that makes it complicated, right? I think we have a layup, an easy one coming up. Would you start Taysom or the Muth? It's the Muth.
It's the move.
Definitely the Muth.
The move is loose.
Yeah, especially if it's like a PPR or a tight end premium, definitely the Muth. Other formats, for sure the Muth. So
Yeah.
Andrew says panic on CD, start AJ Dillon or London over him. You have London as your sleeper, and we already discussed a little of Dillon versus London. So are you starting either or both over CD?
That's tough. I mean, I still think Lamb is going to get an insane amount of targets, and they're probably going to be, manufactured to a certain extent where they're really close to the line of scrimmage and low A dot, and kind of what you
Right.
saw the Miami offense do with Jalen Waddle last year, San Francisco with Debo the year before that, like where you kind of just have to get this guy the ball because you have no other options. And their offensive line is hurting. Cooper Rush is there. I'm CD over AJ Dillon in London, I think still. Yeah, but I feel pretty good about Drake London in this matchup. And part of that I think is because of how low he's ranked. Uh, yes, panic on CD, but also start him. There is that all right? Because I do think it's time to panic on that entire offense, and you can comfortably downgrade every single member until Dak Prescott is back and the offensive line is healthy. But CD now goes from a high end wide receiver 2 to a low end wide receiver 2, and I would still have London as a low end wide receiver 2, even though ranked as a low end wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and Dillon as mid range RB2. So those are my rankings for the week, which would CD still ahead of them all.
Yeah. So there you go. Yes, panic, but not so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of have to start him still. It's just a position where, especially based on draft strategy, and I know AJ Dillon and Leonard are decent pivots, but like we haven't seen him play without Dak yet this year. So maybe like what you saw from Deontay Johnson, what you see from these high volume guys, like there's a big opportunity for CD to still get 12 to 15 targets. And I'll take 12 to 15 targets over 15 touches and 8 targets.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Have another one from Charles. He says full PPR Hollywood or Gabe Davis. Again, Davis being questionable is scaring me. And playing against Allen. Never a fan of, I'm playing against this person, so I'm going to start
Yeah,
this.
that
I'm
that
not
doesn't
thinking
change
into
my
account.
strategy at all.
Yeah, you just want the guy that's
But
going to score the most points, right? So
Again, this one doesn't come down to strategy as much for me because in a vacuum, I would start Hollywood over Gabe Davis anyway. I
right.
was almost like, I'm kind of leaning Hollywood over some guys that I have ranked very highly this week, like a T Higgins.
Hmm.
And so I feel good about a Cardinals bounce back. I'm not ready to give up on that offense by any means. I don't think there's, I think Greg Dortch's original week one opportunity share is a bit of an aberration, and a bit of also just on a little bit of a tangent, man. Imagine Rondale Moore in that role right now. Like, dude, just get healthy, young fella. But it's
Yeah.
Hollywood over Gabe
Yeah.
Davis in a vacuum regardless. And because you have the added strategy of not wanting to really play Gabe or
Right.
not knowing if Gabe is going to play, so not wanting to slot him into a lineup where you're
It
potentially
that
getting
just
a
makes it
goose egg,
easier, right?
it makes it easier.
Okay. Yeah. So there's your answer, Charles. Hopefully it's helpful. Thank you for your question. Christopher is back. Full PPR start one Mooney, DK, or Devonta Smith. I'm leaning Devonta here.
Me
Just like
too.
a quick react. I'm not panicking on that zero last week. DK, you talked about no one to start him, and Mooney is Mooney. So so
Yeah,
I
Mooney
like
against the
Devonta.
Packers too. I'm not a huge fan of those receiver matchups. I think if the Bears are going to be putting up points, it's going to be on the back of the rushing attack with Justin Fields. I don't really like Mooney this week. We talked about DK, yeah, and again, that Philly Vikings matchup, I'll reiterate, is one of the fantasy matchups that I'm targeting most. Like I'm starting essentially every player that I have from that. I'm
Right.
feeling really comfortable. Thielen, obviously Jefferson and AJ Brown, but like Miles Sanders, I'll be starting. Dalvin Cook, I'll be starting. Kenneth Gainwell, I'll
Yeah.
throw in a couple lineups as a
Yeah.
flex. Like I feel pretty good about that game in general.
Yeah. I think it's Devonta slightly over or Mooney for me. Mooney has that potential, but I'm liking Devonta a lot more. Another couple guys we talked about. Tom says, I asked AJ Dillon or Christian Kirk half PPR.
I
This
think
one's
do we
interesting.
have yeah, I think we had a similar one with another
Or
running
maybe they
back.
had like
So
a bunch of options. Yeah.
yeah, in a half PPR, I do kind of like running backs a little bit more than a high volume slot guy,
Right. Yeah.
um, because obviously the reception premium of them
It's not
catching
as high,
six
of
for
course.
66 isn't as appealing. But AJ Dillon going 10 for 66 on the ground and 4 receptions for 30 is much more valuable than a half PPR. So we saw last week and towards the end of 2021 that Dillon was overtaking Aaron Jones a bit in that backfield. It looks like they're going to be in more of a timeshare, but that is still more opportunities than AJ Dillon was getting at the start of the season,
Of
and
course.
obviously as a rookie. So a timeshare for AJ Dillon is very beneficial in that offense in comparison to his opportunity share that he's already been successful with. In half PPR this week against the Chicago Bears, I do lean AJ Dillon just a little bit.
I
If
have
it
to
was
agree.
full
Yeah.
PPR, I think you can probably just go with Christian Kirk because he's going to catch 10 for 66.
Yeah. Yeah. Full PPR makes it more interesting. Half PPR, I'm going with Dylan as well. So, yeah. Thank you, Tom. Hopefully, this is helpful. Jordan asks Mike Evans or Devonta Smith? I think that wasn't, I mean, it's Mike Evans, right?
It's Mike Evans, but I know
Yeah.
why people are worried, man.
Full PPR,
I
by the way.
brought it up on the Proto Pod, but like Lattimore's career numbers against Mike Evans are better than almost any cornerback's career numbers against any
Yeah.
receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But
I know why people are
I'm
worried,
not
but
trusting the
it's also
totality on that.
in that Devontae or Mike Evans, like when that's your kind of choice to make, you still have to go with the guy that has the 2 touchdown for or 2 catches for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like that's what Mike Evans can bring to the
Right.
table
Right.
in
The running
against
back of
against
wide
any match.
receivers, of
Right.
course.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
it's not the best matchup for this, but I think Evans is the better choice in this instance. So yeah, there you go, Trey. Sorry, Jordan. Hopefully that's helpful. Now going to Trey, different Trey than last time. Morning, gents. Full PPR start to A. Rob, Etienne, Michael Thomas, or Kareem Hunt. Wow, that's quite the lineup to choose from. I'm thinking out of the bunch, first start Michael Thomas, and then we can discuss the
Yep.
second guy. Do
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get empty in the lineup for sure. Um, for me, then it would be ETN or Kareem Hunt. I'm not like
Yeah,
giving up
I
on A
agree.
Rob, so to speak. I know a lot of people are jumping ship early. I'm not ready to do that. But when I have those other two options, I would certainly lean them in a week 2 matchup. And I think that's
Yeah,
Kareem Hunt.
yeah. I
I've
was about to say it's. I think it's Kareem Hunt time. So yeah, I don't think there's much to discuss here. MT Kareem Hunt. Let's hit it. Good. Best of luck, Trey. Mitchell is back. Start three full PPR. Hollywood Higgins, D Johnson. Oh, that's the one we answered already. Like he was just confirming. Yep, you good? Sound good. Good luck with that, Trey. Appreciate your bros. We appreciate you. We appreciate your questions. So thank you for
yeah.
coming. Joe Arias is back. Would you start Henderson over Pierce,
Yes.
Harris, Dylan, full PPR? Well,
Oh.
also Dylan.
No, I just
I mean,
Henderson
Pearson
over
Harris, yeah, I
Pierce was
agree.
just yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would
Taylor
start
and
AJ
Swift
Dillon.
starting. Ooh,
I would start AJ Dillon
that's
over
nice.
Daryl Henderson Jr. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
So
obviously Taylor and Swift.
and
You're
Dylan.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
nice. That's nice.
I mean, again, if the Lions feel comfortable enough to put a jersey on DeAndre Swift's back, I feel comfortable enough putting him in my lineup.
Yeah, of course.
Because
We
I
have
mean, he rolled his ankle last week and went for 155 yards on the ground.
right.
So,
Right.
I mean, if he's being limited in practice, didn't concern me as much considering his overall gameplay with that minor
agree.
injury in the first place.
I agree. And now he's a week removed, right? So
Right. And
if it was a day removed, I'd be concerned. A week removed, I'm cool with that. So Gigantor asks bench one PPR: Evans, Julio Cooper, Elijah Moore. Cooper. I'm assuming Amari Cooper, right? Is there another Cooper? I don't know.
I mean, it can't be Cooper Kupp. You're not asking if I should put
Yeah,
Cooper
no.
Kupp on the bench. I would hope
Yeah,
not.
of course.
So
Let's just say on three when you're benching, okay? 1, 2, 3. Julio.
Cooper.
I get that, but
Yeah, but
why?
oh man, I kind of have Julio as like a tier breaker moving back up into solid wide receiver 2 status. Why? Because Chris Godwin's out, because they didn't use Russell Gage, because Russell Gage is hurt, because Mike Evans is hurt, and yeah, Julio was limited. But man, he did he look good in week 1, and I'm
he did.
He really did, man. And again, like Cleveland has an easier defensive matchup on paper, facing off against the Jets. So I don't think you want to bench Elijah Moore there. I don't think you want to, or I do think you're keeping Mike Evans in the lineup. I do think that you would keep Elijah Moore in the lineup rather. And then the defensive matchup with the Browns, like Cooper's going to get shadow treatment, and he's not really in a position where the Browns can just check down to Kareem Hunt, can just run the ball 35 times a game, because it's the Jets. Like Cleveland is not going to need to put up 30 points to win that game.
Some interesting development. I don't know where he just learned, but Gigantor said like he said he learned Julio's out.
Oh.
I don't know where.
Well, that's disappointing. I'm going to have to change some lineups when we get off of this.
Oh yeah. Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, and Donovan Smith all officially out. Came in.
Wow.
When we
Julio was trending towards playing, so that is disappointing. I felt good about him with Lattimore stuck on Evans.
Yeah, so there you go. Just made the decision easier.
Yeah, that makes that a lot easier. Please bench Julia. Yeah, bench Jones there.
Okay, so easy decision. Let's move on to the next one. I lost my place. All right, here we go. Andrew, he asks, full PPR, Edmonds or James Robinson?
Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, yep. I agree.
Yep.
No comment
that one's easy.
Needed. All right, John. Welcome back, John. Another regular last season. Start 2 running backs, Sanders, Henderson, Michael Carter, Ramondre.
That's very interesting.
Full PPR, by the way.
Okay,
so
okay.
For Carter and the dink-dunk Joe Flacco.
I think it's Carter and Sanders, yeah.
I agree. I was going to say that. Henderson is interesting. Ramondre, bro, it is very tight, honestly. I'm just going.
It's all tight across the board. These are good.
It is.
Like 0 RB flex options. Like these are
especially for full PPR, right? Because you have the pass catcher.
And man, we broke it down a little bit earlier in the episode as well. Like I am pushing Ramondre up in the rankings with an assumption, and I willingly admit if I'm wrong, if it happens, that he's going to get that pass catching work now. Pierre Strong,
that, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely an assumption. um, but Damian Harris has never caught passes. Ty Montgomery is out. Pierre Strong has not practiced yet. So it's they basically are going with two running backs, something that the Patriots have never really done. They always have 5 or 6 out there in jerseys any given game. So I think knowing what we know about Damian Harris, knowing that the only other running back to split snaps with is Ramondre, you can kind of give him some pass catching work in this one. I'm still leaning with the check down monster that Joe Flacco is, saying, as I did earlier, that the Ravens are going to be able to score. So, yeah.
And another thing to consider here is Sanders played well. He got a touchdown, but he did not get the passes. That's not what he did last week. So in full PPR, does that make you wonder maybe a little bit? Not in all fairness, Stevenson didn't either.
And the Hendo didn't look incredibly great, even in an increased role. So I'm easily able to kind of lean towards the guy that I'm projecting more pass catching work towards, which would be Michael Carter. So that's they're all like razor close for a specific reason. Henderson got the volume, Ramondre increased in volume, Sanders finally getting a little bit more increased volume. Saw the touchdown though, but I like Michael Carter. I like Miles Sanders. Like I said, I like all those Eagles in this matchup against the Vikings.
Yeah, that's nice. We have some breaking news though. Kamara is officially out. So they're not taking
officially
any
out.
Chances. Officially out, yeah. So
there we go.
There you go. If you were thinking about Kamara, don't you shouldn't have been anyway. But now you can feel comfortable sitting him because he's officially out, not playing at all. There you go. Got it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and so since we have that news up, I think it's pretty obvious the way that you're going to see the backfield touches allocated. You're going to see Mark Ingram obviously take early down work. He's going to push between the tackles. If they get inside of the 5, that'll be his role. Nobody else will get touches unless you're seeing Taysom on a QB power inside the 5, which we've seen 100 times from the Saints. And otherwise, Tony Jones will steal a bit of pass work there. I would probably assume maybe 4 targets, 3 catches for like 20 yards type of thing from Tony Jones, but that kid just isn't good in space. Basically. Yeah, like he's just going to get volume. But Tony Jones is somebody that I was kind of very interested in because I saw a projected role for him on the Saints offense through the beat reporters, guys like Nick Underhill. And same with Abram Smith, who they inevitably cut and I'm sure are regretting in every way possible.
But anyway, to answer John's question, we settled on Sanders and Carter, right?
Yes.
All right, there you go, John. Back to Jordan, full PPR, Freiermuth or Goddard. You're liking that Eagles matchup. How much, though?
Yes. Yeah, I do like that Eagles matchup a lot. So I'm going to lean a little bit Goddard here, but we've not really seen ever uphold 2 wide receivers and a tight end in fantasy throughout a year-long process. It can obviously happen from game to game. So if you're feeling as good as I am about that matchup, you can kind of downgrade Goddard's ceiling a little bit, but I like his floor. I like his touchdown upside. Freiermuth has looked so good, man. Patty F just looked so good. Kind of a clear number 2 receiver on that team, it seemed, with Trubisky at the helm for now, at least. And Trubisky's always kind of like throwing to tight ends and bigger bodied receivers. That's just, he needs a big target, right? He's not the most accurate dude, so he needs someone that's all right. There's 6 feet of space I can get the ball to because this dude's a monster. Gonna lean Patty F, even though as good as I am feeling about the Eagles this week and the Vikings, just both sides of that matchup. But I am gonna lean Patty F.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with you. Let's go Freiermuth. Tristan asks, full PPR, need to start 2. McLaurin, Christian Kirk, T. Higgins, Antonio Gibson. Also a very interesting lineup here of guys.
Okay.
I'm thinking McLaurin, yes, right? And then, no, Higgins, yes, of course.
Yeah.
You're definitely starting Higgins.
You're starting Higgins. If he's available, you're going to start him. He's available, you're going to start him. I think the question here should actually come between Gibson was finally getting that receiving work that we wanted to see him get his entire career, and he looked so good with it that I'm just begging Ron Rivera finally sees the light, because he finally gave him that work. and Gibson
And I
took.
think it's possible, honestly. So
Yeah,
if I had
he
to,
looked
like,
really
quick
good.
answer, Higgins Gibson for me.
Yeah, same.
Okay. So there you go, Tristan. Great lineup, by the way. Like, if you're deciding between those guys, yeah, yeah, that's insane. So because like it's clearly the flex because he's a running back there, right? So it's not even the wide receiver slot. Good
I
job,
know.
great job. All right, Nathan asked, full point PPR, Swift or Dylan? Swift being case was a little question was a little worrying. We talked about that. Trusting Matt, trusting the Lions. So if they're having him out there, Jamal Williams is your sleeper though, right?
Yep,
So
absolutely. I mean, I just think that's kind of going to be a product of the injury is there, and we already saw what Jamal is going to do to Swift, and that's vulture his touchdowns inside of the 5.
yeah, yeah,
So because the Lions are, the Lions could win this game, man. The Lions could very much win this game. This is a winnable matchup, and it's a matchup where because it's kind of so even on paper, you might see a sneaky over. With these two teams actually being able to score on each other despite having bottoming offenses.
sure.
So, I mean,
But yeah,
again, if
Swift.
Swift is starting, I'm great with it. I'm fine with it.
All right, Swift it is. So there you go, Nathan. Let's go with Swift. Hanson de la Garza, also a regular from last season. What's up, boys? It's almost game time. Yes, it
I
is.
know.
Can't wait.
It is almost
And
game
then the
time.
question is, who would you start, James Robinson or Mark Ingram full PPR?
J-Rob.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Definitely, especially for PPR because he did not get the receptions, but he got a couple targets. Oh no, he got receptions as well. So yeah,
Yep.
definitely
Yep. He did catch
over Mark
2.
Ingram. Yeah.
I mean,
Then
in kudos to him while we're on that kid, man. Like he's the only returned just as quick as Cam Akers did,
yeah,
if not even on a
that's
shorter
insane.
time window,
And look
actually,
better,
and
honestly.
looked way better.
Yeah,
Kudos to him for taking his rehab the way that he did and getting back the way that he did. Somebody I was certainly low on, and I'll eat egg on the face all day for that because I'm real happy about James Robinson being able to make his recovery.
yeah, yeah. That was great. Honestly, good for him. Definitely good for him. Uh, while we're on breaking news, we have some breaking news. Braxton Berrios is playing officially, and Cedric Wilson is playing as well. So there you go. In case you weren't
I was,
looking to start
whenever
those
you say
guys.
breaking news, I get so nervous, and then you dropped that, and I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Cedric
Yeah.
Wilson's actually kind of interesting, though.
Come on, stop.
Oh,
No.
I'm not. Yeah, I want to see. I want to see Cedric Wilson in a New Jersey. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, yeah, but how productive is he going to be? Well, this is not a discussion on
I don't
Cedric
know.
Wilson. We can discuss that
No,
down the
no.
pod or
Let's
something.
not get
But
in there. I'm just saying. I want to watch him
yeah,
play
yeah.
today.
Let's get to the questions
That's
because
all I'm saying.
people want to know. The people want to know. Trey is back asking Penny or Hunt as RB2.
Oh,
I think
rain wouldn't
Hunt.
matter. It would be Hunt anyway.
Yeah, yeah, because he's thinking like, oh, maybe they don't pass. They want to run the ball more with Penny, but no, it's Hunt. Always has been, especially in full PPR, right? So there you go, Trey. Then
Hunt's
the
the only running
Ryan.
back in the NFL that has RB1 upside while the RB1 is healthy.
Yeah, yeah, insane. The Ryan says start to half PPR Zeke, DK, Wilson Jr., Thielen, Samuel, like Curtis, and Tyler Boyd. Half
Yeah,
PPR.
you would assume Curtis with this tier.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah.
that's
Curtis
difficult.
and
Start 2,
Thielen,
okay.
right? Or yeah, Curtis and Thielen for me. Or DK,
I'm
you said
gonna
you didn't want
go.
to start him.
I'm gonna
Oh,
say
Zeke.
Zeke.
Oh,
I'm gonna
actually,
say
yeah, yeah.
Zeke.
Zeke,
Zeke and Thielen.
Zeke
I'm
and
gonna say
Thielen.
Zeke and Thielen.
Yeah, if Samuel is Debo, then definitely Debo. But if it's Curtis,
Yes. Yes.
so yeah,
If that and then Tyler
Zeke and
Boyd, yeah,
Thielen.
it's Zeke and Thielen. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I am a little bit worried about Zeke, but not that much. Tristan says, "Thank you. You're welcome." Hanson says, "Thumbs up." Thanks, guys. Yeah, it is Curtis. We got confirmation. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that makes it easier.
thank you all for your questions. We have 15 minutes left on the broadcast if you have any more questions. But right now, we're going to talk about sleepers and busts. You took point in this week on sleepers and busts. So let me know your thoughts on your guys. I saw you had Jamal Williams and Drake London for sleepers, right?
Yep. Jamal Williams and Drake London as the running backs and wide receivers, sleepers, and then I mean, this is funny that I just said to start him, but over those options, it's still Zeke. But Zeke as a downgrade for sure in this week, and Robert Woods as another bust that you could probably feel pretty comfortable benching in your lineups. And I
Right,
mean, there's
right.
one of the things that I didn't really get into, and I know it's kind of sometimes a risky move to be investing this much confidence into a rookie wide receiver rather, this early into the season after kind of just an okay game. But one of the guys that I'm a big proponent of, and his information has led me to a lot of fantasy success and early breakouts and stuff like that, is Matt Harmon from Yahoo and Reception Perception. And I'm a part of Harmon's Discord, and he charted London's first game himself, like personally, and that kid's very, very good at football. And that was while he was being draped by Marshawn Lattimore for 82% of his 90% snap share. So like I do think that Drake London is as good as advertised. And in a game where Ramsey's likely going to have to shadow
Oh
Pitts
yeah,
because he's a moving,
that's gonna be yeah.
and we saw the Bills let up 3 touchdowns to 3 different wide receivers. Isaiah McKenzie looked great. Jamison Crowder caught, 5 passes across the middle for 40 yards. Stephon Diggs went nuclear, and Gabe Davis caught the first touchdown of the year.
Right.
And then another big play later on in that game. So the Rams weren't just a Jalen Ramsey problem. They were a conducive, like, we're struggling covering the pass problem.
Right.
So I know Marcus Mariota isn't Josh Allen, but also Drake London's better than Gabe Davis. So
Right. Also, like now that you mentioned Mariota, I like him for DFS as a DFS play because
me too.
coincidentally, for those who don't know, we have a crunch. Sorry, not crunch time. My patron DFS optimizer that I developed, and the full weekend lineup had Josh Allen as QB, and the only Sunday lineup had Marcus Mariota as QB. Just as a little teaser for on the optimizer. So you are onto something about that. So I do like Mariota this week. We'll see how that pans out.
Mariota
Let's
also
get to
had a
some more
huge
questions
rushing
before
share.
we get to the bus. Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. We have Tyler Boyd or Boyd Armstrong full BPR. I like Boyd Armstrong honestly because like
Me
he's a
too. He's my
scrappy.
favorite.
I like his comps on the app are Cooper Cup, Hunter Renfro, Ben Skowronek. He got that dog in him. Full BPR
Sneaky
especially,
athletic.
he's catching them balls. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So another one from Trey. Full PPR drop Lockett for Gage and starting my flex. Uh,
I mean, is Gage
like
the only healthy receiver, really? Because I guess, well, no, Mike
uh,
Evans is there. Mike
Evans,
Evans is
yeah,
there.
Evans is there, right? So
I don't think that's a move that I would personally do, to be honest.
yeah, no, me neither. I think in the long run, Lockett it's more useful. And like, are you starting Lockett right now or seeing your bench? Because if he's in your bench, you probably have a good starter right now. So why drop him? And like, why drop a starter in the first place? I'm not a huge fan of that. So I wouldn't do this personally. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to keep Lockett. I think it's a smarter season long play. You might get more points at a Gage this particular week, but that's not necessarily conductive to building a winning season long lineup. And Lockett's somebody that I still think is going to have boomer bust potential. He's still going to win you your weeks with
Like
big
always,
games.
right? Like
Exactly.
always,
Exactly.
like he always has
100%.
been. Yeah. One more from John. He says Curtis Samuel or Elijah Moore for PPR. No Zach
I will
Wilson,
want it.
which I don't know if it's
Yeah.
good or bad.
I know it's seemingly good for like the running backs and Elijah. I mean, it was last year at least. And
I
it
do like
looked to be
Elijah
that
more
way
than
again
Curtis
in week
Samuel,
one.
if I'm
Me
being
too.
honest.
Yeah, this one's actually really tough for me. I'm high on Curtis Samuel again. Man, every time that kid gets healthy, I fall back into the trap. Um, it's still going to be Elijah for me this week. If I'm staring down a flex
Yeah,
option here,
full
I'm going to
PPR.
slot in. I'm going to slot in more.
I think I agree. Elijah Moore, he did not play as well last week, but like we said, Curtis Samuel had that touchdown, which he is not guaranteed to have. That's not a usage thing. It's more of a lucky thing to do. So I'm thinking still more Elijah Moore, full PPR, lock it in. So we have 10 minutes of broadcast left.
Dude, this flies by.
Yeah, an hour and a half. Like we extended it. This used to be an hour, in case you didn't know. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this broadcast, but if you're watching on Twitter, we do not see your questions, unfortunately. You have to go on the YouTube to post questions so we can see them. It's youtube.com/BrotoFantasy, I think, or just look up Broto Fantasy on YouTube, and then you can ask all the questions you want. If you're watching in the app, you can check out the live stream in the app, the FF by Broto app. So go check that out. By the way, Jameis is healthy and playing. Like officially got
Good.
that questionable tag off of him. Um, so yeah, go on YouTube. Go on the
Yeah, I
Porto
will.
app. Twitter does not
Yeah.
work.
Unfortunately,
Oh, I have a
there's some
question
sort of
that's
like
perfect for
StreamYard
me.
blockade between the Twitter answering questions.
Yeah, I don't get that because we are streaming on Twitter. People can watch on Twitter, but they just can't ask questions. So
Exactly.
I'm sorry
Yeah,
we
it's
missed
weird.
your Twitter questions, and you're still here, and do not hate us now. Go watch on YouTube. Go ask your questions on YouTube. I think this is a question for you, Matt. How do you feel about Kirk? Start him over Metcalf and Curtis Samuel?
Yes.
Half PPR. Also, yeah, I'm thinking yes. We've
Yes.
talked about liking Kirk out of the slot and not liking Metcalf, and Curtis Samuel being like a tier breaker. For me, it's tight, but I think Kirk has a slight edge right now over Curtis.
Agreed. Yeah.
So there you go. B Ryan 1594. That's your answer. John says, great stuff. Thanks, guys. Thank you, John, for tuning in. Definitely tune in every week. We're gonna be live, crunch time, 10:30 Eastern, all the way up to 12. Is it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So 10:30 to 12 every
Give you an
single
hour
week.
buffer to actually go in and set those 27 lineups, Boyd.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can't cut it that close to game time.
It's
So
true.
Trey says, "Here's the week 2 boys." Yes, let's get it. Turn those week 1 losses into wins. Start the Sunday up nice, because we all need a win. We all do. Russell Gage or Zay Jones now that the Julio news broke.
That's really interesting, actually. This might be super contrarian, but I'm almost leaning Zay Jones.
Interesting. Care to
Yeah.
elaborate?
Um, I was actually
No.
pretty impressed with Zay's. I mean, other than the fact that Trevor Lawrence looked absolutely horrendous yet again, which obviously as a dynasty guy that invested in what was supposed to be a locked-in 1-1 in Superflex leagues, you feel not great about that. But man, Zay Jones low-key looked pretty awesome as his number 1 outside receiver. He outsnapped and out-targeted Marvin Jones, which was the number 2 outside option. Kirk dominated every single snap in the slot until the game was, until they were in like goal line formations. And yeah, Zay had 9 targets for 6 receptions, 65 yards. He didn't end up catching any touchdowns because Trevor Lawrence only threw 1 on a check down to James Robinson inside the 7-yard line. But Zay Jones is pretty clearly the number 2 pass catcher on that offense. I don't know that you can say the same about Russell Gage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He just like lucked into that role this week, and like we've seen time and time again how that does not guarantee points at all. So like you don't inherit target share, you earn it.
Nope.
So
Exactly.
yeah, honestly, you like my first reaction was definitely Gage because Julio news and all, but now you turned me into Zay Jones. Honestly,
I do think you can get
congratulations,
some
you did it.
flex appeal out of Zay, and it's kind of maybe just a safety, a risk aversion thing because of exactly like you said. There is no guarantee that he's stepping into a Chris Godwin role or anything. He's just stepping into a starting role.
Yeah, yeah, and the DFS guru has stated he loves him in GPP, right? So Zane second in targets, a lot of potential. There you go. That answers your question, Alex. Hopefully it does. Tim says 27 is light for Boyd. I think he's just talking about the dynasty lineups here. Like there's another 27 for redraft, so
I'm sure.
that would make more sense.
And I mean, at least 50 best ball lineups too, but he doesn't have to worry about, setting those lineups.
Oh yeah, Oh, I regret not having more basketball teams, to be honest.
Me
I
too.
I I, I got very very busy the week before the season and just
The
didn't
T
have
Law
time to draft.
Illuminati will find us.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. I
literally.
mean, I,
Talking
I
shit about him.
trust me. Like hashtag Duval, they are intense fans. I've eaten the biscuits with them before, and it's not overly fun.
All right. So before Duval County finds us, I think. Well, we have still 5 minutes. We'll wait a couple minutes
Well,
for questions to come in. Oh,
I'm gonna talk about Robert Woods a little bit because he's somebody that I
oh,
think was getting getting drafted to be, I mean, expected as the tight ends wide receiver one, and certainly was starting to have a spike in ADP towards the end of the season with all of the, or end of the offseason rather, with all of the negative Traylon Burks news and how he wasn't ready and couldn't, his conditioning wasn't up to par and wasn't kind of getting the playbook. So obviously the Titans were overtly high on Robert Woods. And then in week one, he kind of just looked like a shell of a former self in his first week back after season-ending knee surgery in 2021. He had less snaps and less targets than both of his rookie teammates, Traylon and Kyle Phillips. Phillips led the team with 6 receptions for 66. Burks had 3 for 55 on 5 targets, and the 30-year-old veteran was only targeted twice. He caught 1 pass for 13
yeah.
yards in what was supposed to be this smash matchup against a porous Giants secondary. And just didn't, not only did he not get the target share when he was on the field, like his targets per route run was incredibly low because his snap share was incredibly low because they just didn't seem like Robert Woods was anything more than a deep threat decoy. And then coming into a matchup against the Bills with Tre'Davious White probably controlling the half of the field that Robert Woods is on, with their, incredible strides that they've made on the defensive line as well. Like the Bills are going to be the toughest matchup for any fantasy option all season. And I'm just not a big fan of putting Robert Woods anywhere other than on the bench this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad but true because I'm a big fan of Robert Woods. And it's come to that, sadly. What are you going to do? We have, I think, time for one last question from FF Pulse, Clay himself. He asked Jeff Wilson or Brees Hall?
Brees.
Yeah, yeah. Got me worried there for a second. But yeah, I don't like Jeff Wilson at all. So I think it's
He's
definitely
somebody that I
Brees.
obviously added off of waivers, but
I mean,
even for
yeah, but you're not
me,
starting him.
and yeah, because for me personally, some of my waiver acquisitions are I'm just playing keep away. Like I'm not going to
Right,
start him, but I don't want somebody else to start him and have
right,
him
right.
pop
Of
off for
course, of course.
24. Like, do you know what I mean? That's kind of Jeff Wilson's not somebody I'm super confident on. All of the running back news in a lot and Elijah Mitchell and like obviously TDP was a healthy scratch, which we saw from Trey Sermon the year before, and Jordan Mason got the RB3 role ahead of TDP. So all of that news just made me more confident in Trey Lance as a rusher and Debo Samuel as a rusher. Like I don't think there's really, I think Kyle Shanahan is smart enough to put the ball in the hands of the most talented players, and that is not Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, yeah. The rain got people thinking maybe Jeff Wilson, but not a fan.
I'll I have the like I mean I'm in I have the report, kind of been watching it a lot. The wind is up to 12 to 15 miles per hour, which is usually you don't see games statistically affected until it's
Right,
over
right.
I think 18 or 20 miles per hour wind. So the winds are like they're not great for kickers, but they should be like not super detrimental to the pass game. And the rain is light. Like it's not torrential downpour, and it's supposed to clear up during game time, but open with rain. It's not the weather that it was in Chicago though. So I think a lot of
Yeah,
people are
that was
also
the same.
that
That was the same.
overreaction week is recency bias is just a hell of a controller of opinion, right? So
Yeah, for sure,
it's not
for
the
sure.
same weather as last week. It's not great weather, no, but that should just increase the rushing upside that Trey Lance brings to the table in the first place.
Right, right. Well, anyway, thank you for your questions. That's all the time we have for today. Not 5 minutes left.
No, we got like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. So we'll see you next week for all the breaking news, player news, start set questions, anything you want. If you're watching on Twitter, come on YouTube. That's where you can post the comments. You can find me at BrotoFF Casanova. You can find Matt at PsychWardFF on Twitter and Instagram. So check out that Instagram content as well. And see you guys next week. Thank you.
Peace.
Oh. Someone got a question off 5 seconds before we ended it. Wide receiver 2 to wide CeeDee Lamb, Bateman, or Devonta Smith. I have a JJ as my wide receiver 1. I'm gonna let you just pick quick hits. No one
Lamb.
else. It's just quick hits.
High targets. Lamb. Just opportunity. Chase opportunity for this matchup. Yep.
Hopefully Cooper Rush is not absolute doo-doo.
As long as he can hit him on slants, man. We just need a Michael Thomas-esque like roll. Just 2-yard slants just 40 times a game.
Him. He did not say the scoring format, but there you go. Mako J. You were our last question today. And thank you for your question. Good luck. See you guys next week.